All right, so now we're going to wrap it up with one last commandment for tonight. Number 7, you shall not steal. It's just 4 simple little words that generally means don't take what is yours. Now, a couple weeks ago, I had an example of stealing, some change from my mother. And it wasn't something that I was proud of. I felt really guilty as soon as I had done it. But it's kind of the classic example of what you should not steal entails. Often it's interpreted as just don't take other people's stuff. And for the most part, almost everybody watching this isn't really going to struggle with this in their lifetime. A lot of us are going to be just fine. We're not thieves. We generally don't steal from other people. But the reality of the situation is that it's just never quite as black and white as we want it to be. So now we need to talk about the spirit of the law, particularly in regards to the word respect, because it really is about respect as much as it is about ownership. See, when we talk about property, we mean people's land and their possessions and their resources, but we're also talking about intellectual property, like your ideas or your thoughts or your work. So now we're into things like cheating or saying that others' work is your work or taking credit for something that you didn't do or copying off of somebody else's test. I mean, you didn't take the test. Those aren't your answers. Those are this other person's answers, and you're pretending like they're yours. That kind of counts as stealing. It also talks about time, and here's one that some of us are maybe more guilty of than others. Not being late, respecting other people's time. I mean, time in our society is a huge commodity. It means respecting when somebody else gives you their time. It also means resources, like your possessions, your time, your talent, your work. It means that they're a gift from God to be respected and shared and protected. By respecting other people's property, we're respecting the gifts that God has given them. Imagine if somebody had you come into their house and you walked all over their carpet with dirty feet and you tracked mud all over their house and then you took markers and you wrote on the walls and then you started throwing things so that stuff started breaking all over the place. You're not stealing, but you're also really not respecting their property. The same goes for your stuff. You need to treat it well. God has given it to you as a gift. So it means that when you have something new, you treat it nicely. All right, number 3, don't have what is unjustly yours, meaning don't take stuff that you didn't earn. So this could be cheating on a test. It could be keeping something that you know isn't yours, or overcharging people for something, or hoarding, taking 5 of something when you know that other people didn't have any. Imagine if you're trick-or-treating and you come across a house that just has a bowl of candy with a note that says, take 1. Yeah, it's out there for people to take, but if you take the whole bowl, now other people aren't going to have an opportunity to have some. I think that falls under this commandment. Number 4, trusting and having faith that you will have enough. When we learned about the first commandment, we learned about loving and honoring and trusting God. It also means that we trust that God will provide for us. You don't need to take opportunities away from other people or resources away from your neighbor because you trust that God will provide for you and give you just what you need. And finally, it means sharing your possessions, your time, your talent, your resources that you have, particularly with those in need. Now, we've been learning about sharing since preschool, so I feel like we probably should have it down, but we don't. So it means giving to the hungry. We kind of all get that part, right? Like give to people who don't have enough. But it also means helping other people to thrive and helping other people to get ahead. And it means sharing your resources and your time and your talent to do that. So let's say you're really good at a subject in school and there's other kids that are not as good at that subject, or maybe they're just younger and haven't learned it yet. It means that you're going to take the time to help them so that they also can have that knowledge and those resources. Or it means being a team player or allowing others to have the opportunity, even though it means that you yourself might not. It means making sacrifices. So saying that you're not going to have as much playtime in a soccer game because you know that it's best that other kids get that time so that they can practice. Parents, here's a way that you can use your time and talent and connections to mentor someone at work. Maybe it's somebody who's new to the office and they need to get to know the office culture. Or it's someone who's new to your field and you know that you are able to teach them a lot, introduce them to a lot of people, and help share some of the resources that you have acquired. It also means that we use our voices so that others can use theirs. First, it involves not stealing their voice, so not interrupting other people. That just kind of seems like a polite thing to do. It also means to look around and to see whose voices aren't being heard at all, and what do we need to do to lift those up. Okay, all of this seems straightforward. A little difficult, but it seems super doable. I mean, it just means helping with other people, sharing our resources, not taking other people's stuff, and treating the things that we have with respect. I mean, that all seems fairly doable. I think we'll be okay. But as always, there's a tricky part. There's just all of these gray areas. Like, what if you didn't know that you were stealing something? Or if you're like Robin Hooding, right? Where you steal from the rich and give it to the poor. Is that still stealing if the outcome of what happens is a good thing? Or what if you're taking something that no one is gonna miss? Let's say your neighbor has a huge apple tree in the back of their yard. Nobody needs that many apples. If you just take like 5 apples, is it really stealing? That person is probably not even going to notice. Or what if they never really lose anything like tangible in the first place? Illegally downloading something free from the internet. Like, I have Netflix, my sister has Hulu. We share each other's passwords. We get to watch twice as much TV. Is that sharing or is that stealing? Or is there such a thing as like disobeying a commandment more than others? I think we can all agree that robbing a bank is way worse than like stealing a candy bar. Destroying somebody's home is way worse than like stealing some apples from their backyard. So is there some where it's like you do it worse, or is it like you break the commandment and then you're over? And then there's the really hard stuff, like the stuff that we don't like to think about, like the fact that we here in America live on the stolen land of the Native Americans. And land is taken all the time through wars, including in the Bible. But if it happens in the Bible, is it okay? Because it seems wrong. Like, it seems super wrong. And we've benefited from systems of oppression, and we currently benefit from unfair labor laws, particularly when it comes to stuff that we buy from overseas, like electronics. Is that stealing if people are being treated unfairly and we're the ones that reap the benefits? I'm not saying this stuff to make you feel bad, just so that you realize that this is just a lot more complex than it seems. We don't need to feel guilt or shame for something that we maybe didn't do. But I do think we need to talk about how we react when we find out that we've personally benefited from systems of oppression. I'm pretty sure there's not a right answer for us to find. But that doesn't mean that we don't need to be aware of the questions. God trusted God's people with these commandments. So I think it means that God has enough faith in us to have meaningful conversations about what they really mean. Good luck with your conversations tonight, and I will see you next week.